Hundreds of zombies lie neatly on the concrete ground, completely still, seeming to enjoy a leisurely sunbath. A few passing survivors witnessed this eerie sight, but at this moment, they couldn't feel happy at all. Because this is the only path to their safe zone, when everyone didn't know what to do, Lao Hei decided to venture out alone to explore. Unexpectedly, just as he entered the group of zombies, a zombie wearing protective clothing suddenly emerged, letting out a spine-chilling roar that instantly awakened all the zombies. In 1985, workers at a Yugoslav capital construction site accidentally unearthed a 300-year-old tomb. Strangely, several corpses inside have not fully decayed to this day, and their bodies are covered in lime, indicating they clearly died from a plague. One of the workers was accidentally cut by a bone and died mysteriously before an ambulance could arrive. When the police lifted the white cloth, they found that the worker who had just died showed signs of decay. Therefore, to ensure safety, he immediately instructed the coroner to seal all the bodies swiftly and strictly keep any information from leaking to the outside world. Unexpectedly, just as he finished speaking, the corpse on a rack came back to life. Their frenzied appearances had clearly devolved into something lost. The scene shifts to the presidential office, where a high-ranking military official informs the president about construction site incidents, revealing resurrected workers displaying extreme aggression. The president is deeply shocked. However, the military had already secured the site and removed all the corpses. Upon further research, they discovered that this virus can actually reanimate dead cells. It can turn the infected into bloodthirsty, aggressive beings. Weaponized as a biochemical weapon, its power would be unimaginable, prompting the president to act on top officials' advice. Signed a secret research agreement. Time swiftly moves 20 years later to a suburban train station. Due to the nearby military base preparing for joint exercises, all trains except military ones were prohibited from stopping. They blocked nearby network signals. An elderly professor with glasses was stranded on the train, unaware of the situation. Then, 3 American soldiers emerged from the military base, wandered, and arrived at the station. They planned to find a place to have fun before exercises started. A security guard urgently tried to deter them, warning against dangerous acts like crossing the tracks. However, the trio ignored his advice and even asked about interesting nearby places. During the conversation, a train suddenly arrived at the station, and a person in protective gear disembarked. Seeing that it was a military biochemical department's vehicle, for safety reasons, the security guard urged the 3 soldiers to leave the area immediately, but they ignored him and interacted inappropriately. The guard joked, and one soldier even pulled his handgun from his belt. The guard then attempted to retrieve the gun. In the chaos, an accidental discharge unintentionally struck the escort personnel. The second bullet also hit the biochemical train precisely, causing a large amount of green gas to gush out instantly. In an instant, it engulfed the injured escort and the squad leader. Seeing the toxic gas overwhelming them, the security guard quickly rushed indoors, opened a drawer, and took out the gas mask inside. He threw it to the nearby professor, urging him to apply it quickly. Suddenly he felt ill, collapsed, and vomited uncontrollably, terrifying the innocent professor. He ran outside shouting for help, but the toxic gas was like thick fog, making impossible to see. After a while, the gas dissipated, and the professor returned indoors to call for help. However, he found that he couldn't get through on the phone. Turning around, he saw that the security guard was missing from the floor. Unbelievably, he followed the bloodstains and saw the guard crawling out from under the table. He thought the guard hadn't given up. Unbeknownst to him, the guard had become a zombie. As he approached, it lunged with bared teeth and claws. Terrified, the professor fled, not expecting what awaited outside. The soldiers had also mutated, and the toxic gas continued to spread around. The church not far from the station was also not spared, when a bald prisoner was released from serving his sentence and passed by here. He saw a pale-faced nun approaching. She told the bald man she had been bullied and that a man had inexplicably bitten her. As soon as she finished speaking, that man stealthily appeared not far away. It was clearly a zombie. The bald man was about to ask if it was him when the nun suddenly mutated and turned to attack him. It must be said, the bald man was also ruthless. He directly twisted the nun's neck. Another zombie that lunged at him was also easily dealt with by him.
After finishing their challenging tasks for the day, they still couldn't resist standing there to flaunt.
As the bald man finished showing off and left, the professor hurriedly appeared, warning of nearby crazies and urging him to run. However, the bald man stayed calm and explained profound principles. With the witness acting irrationally, the professor had no choice but to keep escaping. Meanwhile, facing 3 slowly approaching zombies, the bald guy calmly took out 2 handguns from his bag. He swiftly and easily handled the trouble. After all, he held the truth. No wonder he was so composed. At the same time, a few university students were driving on the highway when their car suddenly broke down. A sharp-eyed girl suddenly noticed several figures ahead. Approaching, they were nearly scared to death. Professor appeared. Was pleading for help to Jane on the hood, but at this time, they couldn't protect themselves. The car wouldn't start no matter what. Seeing more and more zombies nearby, they had no choice but to use the car to save their lives. Meanwhile, on the other side of the highway, a few unlucky individuals drove into this dangerous area. They were 2 agents and several police officers, escorting a very important prisoner from Zhengfengming's prison, while some were casually chatting. Unaware that danger was just ahead, there was suddenly a loud crash as the vehicle hit something. Agent Old Black and the chief promptly exited the car, finding a motionless man on the road, believing something terrible had occurred. They didn't know it was a zombie preparing to call the local police to handle the situation, when suddenly they saw a boy screaming as he ran out of a building. It seemed he was trying to escape something terrifying. Realizing something was wrong, the 2 cautiously drew their weapons and went to investigate. When they entered the building, they found it was in chaos. Blood was everywhere on the ground when suddenly there was a sound coming from the bathroom. The 2 immediately tensed up, staring at the doorway. The next second, a zombie slowly walked out, with some intestines still hanging from its torn stomach, followed by Agent Mina. Upon seeing the disgusting scene, he immediately vomited. As they attempted to escape without looking back, another zombie appeared, forcing the three to flee swiftly. Outside, they discovered the prisoner's escort car was malfunctioning. A bad premonition flooded their hearts. As they approached the car cautiously, they discovered the driver and a police officer had become zombies. Old Black and the chief fired simultaneously. They decisively killed the mutated driver and officer, while the prisoner Juan Mao was unharmed as he was kept in a secure compartment. They intended to transfer the prisoner to another vehicle and leave immediately. They were terrified to discover recent gunshots had attracted a large horde of zombies. What was happening? Seeing this, the sheriff ordered officers to prepare the vehicle. Unexpectedly, as officers entered, they collided head-on with a zombie. The zombie lunged and bit. As the officer counterattacked, he accidentally blew the car tire. With their only transport gone, they had no choice but to proceed on foot. They headed to the town's police station for help, but on the way, a zombie suddenly attacked the sheriff. Mina was also accidentally knocked to the ground by a female zombie, and her handgun fell to the ground. The growing number of zombies left Old Hay with no time to attend to the others. Fortunately, the prisoner stepped in just in time, picked up the dropped handgun, and killed the zombie. However, the sheriff wasn't so lucky. The zombie bit his arm and then, unexpectedly, it fled the scene in a dash. After Mina was rescued by Juan Mao, she not only didn't thank him, but instead immediately warned him to surrender his handgun. After all, in his view, prisoners are just prisoners, an even more dangerous existence than zombies. But Juan Mao was only worried about the sheriff being bitten because he had witnessed firsthand in the compartment how the driver and officers mutated after being bitten by zombies. However, the situation is urgent now. Surrounded by more zombies, Old Hay couldn't focus on anything else. After threatening Juan Mao to obediently hand over his weapon, the group kept fleeing. A large horde relentlessly pursued them, but they eventually reached the town's police station. They closed the glass doors, blocking the zombies outside. However, the police station had already fallen. Even the officers had mutated. Worse still, under the frenzied attacks of the zombies, the glass doors didn't hold for long and shattered everywhere. A horde rushed in instantly, and they could only run into the office inside. They blocked the zombie horde with a roller shutter door again, but this trapped them. Lao Hei tried calling for outside help, but found he couldn't make any calls. Since the entire police station had no power and couldn't send a distress signal via computer, the only option was to go to the server room to check if there was a power outage. After briefly treating the chief's wound, Lao Hei immediately took him to rush to the server room, leaving Mina to watch the prisoners. On the way to the server room, they also discovered a few university students and teachers hiding in the cell area. They first brought a few back to the office, but the chief soon showed abnormalities. He went to the bathroom, removed his bandages, and was surprised to find his wound covered with abscesses. Upon learning of his condition, knowing he was turning into a monster, Lao Hei had to leave him in the office. Reluctantly, he unlocked the prisoner's handcuffs and took him to combat, as only a few elderly, weak, sick, and disabled remained. Lao Hei had no other choice, and Mina's task was to keep an eye on the chief to ensure he would be shot before he fully mutated. As they were leaving, Lao Hei also forcefully took along a timid male student, but unexpectedly, just as the three had just started to leave, the chief started to show clear signs of mutation. He told Mina to quickly shoot him to end it in this critical moment, but Mina hesitated, unable to pull the trigger in time. It wasn't until the chief had completely turned into a zombie that she finally hardened her heart. At this moment, the other three had arrived at the server room door. For safety, the male student was responsible for guarding the door, while Lao Hei and the prisoner entered the server room. The two groped around in the dark environment and finally found the main switch. It seemed the circuit had automatically tripped, but when Lao Hei closed the switch, he found the hospital wasn't powered. At this critical moment, it was up to the prisoner to solve the problem with a simple and forceful kick. They waited until the server room was illuminated before realizing severed limbs and bodies were scattered on the floor. Even worse, the electric gate auto-opened when powered, revealing hordes of terrifying zombies outside. Upon closer inspection, I saw that a severed hand was pressing the lift button. As the rolling shutter opened wider, a massive wave of zombies surged in like a flood. The two immediately started shooting, but the sheer number of zombies was overwhelming. Old Hay was the first to be knocked to the ground. I thought the prisoner would take the chance to escape, but unexpectedly, he shot and killed a zombie, saving Old Hay. Given the current situation, he couldn't survive alone, and then a male student. The two shut the server room door and successfully escaped from inside, then hurried non-stop to rendezvous with the others. Just didn't expect that while passing another office, I was terrified to find it filled with zombies. At that moment, one zombie even broke through the tempered glass, and all the zombies inside rushed out. Fortunately, the safe office next door let three escape unharmed, and they firmly blocked the door with a table. Seeing that the sheriff had already been killed, Old Black felt very bitter. At this moment, Mina was still stunned in place, and even now, the key point they painstakingly managed to connect turned out that the computer was completely unusable, falling into utter despair. The only consolation was that there was still a TV to watch, and the attentive Mina suddenly noticed the TV program was actually live broadcast. The screen showed countless zombies and a car speeding by. Unexpectedly, there was still a survivor, and he was none other than the incredibly brave Baldy. Everyone else is hiding in the apocalypse, but this guy, under the pursuit of a large group of zombies, remained calm and effortlessly killed two zombies with just a swift kick.
And hell and death were cast.
However, this guy's lines were somewhat abstract, giving the impression that he was deliberately pretending to be profound. He swaggered into the TV station's studio. During the live TV broadcast, he discussed major principles. Old Black and others watching the stream witnessed it. The professor teased him as crazy. I suspect this guy wasn't released from prison after serving his sentence, but instead sneaked out of a mental hospital. What he said was also baffling, as if he was the only one in the world who was sober.
They shall desire to die, and death shall fly from them. Subtitles provided by the Amara.org community. Yo-Yo Exclusive Theater, the highly exclusive television series presented by Yo-Yo.
I was surprised by this guy's strong environmental awareness, and the girl student watching also cares about the environment. Perhaps after hearing the bald man's words, he instantly felt he deserved to die and frantically rushed to sacrifice himself. You claim you wish to die, but you also unleash zombies to harm everyone. In the end, others couldn't stop you, and the zombies fulfilled your wish. The office became unsafe, forcing everyone to leave. Mina discovered they could escape through the window. Curly decisively used a chair to clear the way, but didn't expect the professor to stay behind. Being old, he didn't want to slow everyone down. With the zombies now within arm's reach, Old Black could only respect his choice and give him a quick death. Then, the group of 5 smoothly escaped outside through the window. Fortunately, there were no zombies on the streets. As for what to do next, after discussion, they finally decided to go to the dock and take a boat to another town on the opposite shore. Maybe that place wasn't overrun. However, as they were about to reach their destination, they witnessed an incredibly strange scene. The zombies were lying haphazardly on the ground. Yo-Yo exclusive theater. Yo-Yo television series exclusive. It turns out they've all come to this place, but no matter what, they must find a way to get through. Because this is the only way to the dock, Old Black decided to take the risk and go ahead to check the situation. If the zombies remain completely still, the others will quickly follow. But if he is accidentally discovered by the zombies, he will have to use a strategy to lure the zombies away, giving everyone a chance to escape. At the moment, there is no better option, so the others can only agree to let Old Black cautiously walk into the lion pack. At first, everything was normal, but when he reached the center of the horde, a zombie clad in protective gear suddenly appeared and roared at the group. In no time, all the zombies awakened. Lao Hei realized the situation was dire. He followed the plan to lead the lion group away. Others saw and quickly ran toward the riverbank, but Mina suddenly... He instructed the 3 to go to the dock to search for escape boats and prepare to rescue Lao Hei alone. The 2 students left without hesitation, while Huan Mao chose to. In collaborating with Mina, he didn't expect the prisoner to show much loyalty. It was then that Mina changed her view of Huan Mao. At this moment, Lao Hei's situation was extremely perilous, being forced into a carriage by many zombies. Meanwhile, 2 students found a boat at the dock. The male student instructed the female student to untie the ropes. After boarding and starting the engine, they didn't expect he had no intention to wait for others. He abandoned the female student and drove the yacht alone. To make matters worse, 2 zombies spotted her. In the moment of crisis, a car suddenly appeared. It was Bald Brother, a teenager with Chunibu. He rushed over, raised his dual guns, and in an instant took down the 2 zombies. Even now, he's still very Chunibu, but he's quite reliable in critical moments. After saving the female student, he immediately rushed to help the others. Your 2 had just fallen into a crisis when Bald Brother arrived like a god from heaven. This guy had every kind of weapon. The strong 2 hurried forward, fully armed, and began intense fighting with the zombies. Strong firepower suppressed the zombies, proving them no match. The fear originated from inadequate firepower. Taking advantage of their cover, Lao Hei successfully broke free from the carriage. Just as he arrived outside, a zombie lunged at him. At that moment, Huan Mao quickly threw him a handgun, and Old Black decisively shot and killed the zombie. In the blink of an eye, the ground was covered with zombie corpses, leaving only the Zombie King in protective gear fighting alone. Huan Mao stepped forward to challenge the Zombie King to a decisive battle. They originally thought the Zombie King was formidable, but to their surprise, Huan Mao swiftly defeated him in their first encounter, resolving the crisis. Old Black and Mina didn't say much. After all, he had saved both of their lives more than once. As for MVP Bald Brother, he stood there and said a bunch of strange things. The selfish male student ultimately couldn't escape. Who would have thought that a zombie was hiding inside the yacht? The film's ending felt very rushed. From the outbreak, the protagonists were constantly evading zombie attacks, but in the end, they bypassed the conflict quickly with just a few weapons. So why hide at all? The most critical factor of course is Bald Brother, who's comparable to a game NPC. The presence of this character feels very unreasonable, as if he were a boss from the investors. And the character inserted to experience the zombie game. There's no setup at the beginning, and his monologuing lines are very off-putting. Besides, the film included elements of religion, faith, and environmentalism, but they felt very abrupt. Furthermore, the virus leak plot is highly unreasonable. How could such an accident happen in such a critical transport scene? The director portrayed the police and soldiers as fools, while the 2 prisoners were each more ferocious. Besides the above issues, the rest of the film is just barely passable. That's all for this video. Thank you dear fans for watching. Don't miss our next episode.